Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Tips. My name is Julian, and today we're going to be talking about players that you can add to your team to help you win Week 7 of the fantasy schedule. Before we get started, guys, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I would really appreciate the support. Let's jump right into some forward options to add to your team. First on the list, guys, is Jean-Gabriel Pageau, New York Islanders, 42% owned, and he's on a tear right now. He's doing so well. So as long as he's hot, you can have him on your team. I don't think he's a season-long hold, but as long as he's hot, he's someone that you should definitely have on your team. Next is Matt Zuccarello, Minnesota Wild, 40% owned, and this guy's on an absolute tear since coming back from his injury. He's got 10 points in his last 5 games, and honestly, his whole line is on fire. If you could get any piece of that line, go ahead and do so. But Zuccarello is the guy that I would target right now. Add him now before it's too late. I've already added him in my league. Next is Joe Thornton, Toronto Maple Leafs, 39% owned, and he's back from injury now, and he'll be skating alongside Matthews and Marner on both the top line and top power play, so he makes for a pretty decent ad. Next is Jack Roslovic, Columbus Blue Jackets, 31% owned, and he's still skating on that second line alongside Cam Atkinson and is skating on that top power play. Roslovic is a pretty decent ad. Next is Nick Schmaltz, Arizona Coyotes, 30% owned, and he's currently skating on the top line of the Arizona Coyotes and on their better power play. He's a pretty decent ad if you need someone to put up a few points here and there. Next is Nico Hischier, New Jersey Devils, 29% owned, and he hasn't put up a point yet through 3 games, but he's looking decent and the points should start coming. He's skating on their top power play as well, so that doesn't hurt. Next is Nick Ritchie, Boston Bruins, 37% owned, and I've been repping this guy for a few weeks now. He's skating on that top power play with Marchand, with Bergeron, with Pastrnak. What more can I say? He's a pretty good add to your team. Next is Trevor Zegras, Anaheim Ducks, 24% owned. He's currently a center, but should get left wing eligibility soon because he is skating as a left winger. He's seeing a decent amount of power play time, and he's seeing 5-on-5 time with Sam Steele and Silfverberg. He's a really talented kid, so give him a few more games to do some damage. Next is Pavel Buchnevich, New York Rangers, 22% owned, and it seems like the Rangers are finally starting to heat up, which is strange because Panarin just left the team, so it's a little bit weird, but finally Buchnevich should start getting you a decent amount of fantasy points. Next is Alex Iafallo, Los Angeles Kings, 22% owned, top line, top power play. I've been repping this guy for weeks. He was under 5% owned until this very week, so Alex Iafallo makes a great add to your fantasy team. Next is Max Comtois, Anaheim Ducks, 20% owned, and he's on a little bit of a tear of his own over his last couple of games. He's got 4 points and is looking pretty good, skating alongside Raquel. For as long as his hot streak lasts, you can add Comtois to your team. He's a pretty good player. Next is Martin Necas, and just like I said last week, he's getting some decent opportunities on that second line and also on that second power play. He's a pretty decent ad if you really need a fill-in. Next is Pavel Zacha, New Jersey Devils, 14% owned, and he's currently riding a 6-game point streak since coming back from that Devils whole COVID IR scare. He's looking pretty good. He's playing top power play time, and he's playing top 2 lines as well. So all in all, he makes a pretty decent add to your team. Next is Victor Rask, Minnesota Wild, 3% owned, and like I said with Zuccarello, that whole line is on fire, and Victor Rask is also seeing some top power play time. And that actually makes a really good add to your team, especially if you need a centerman. Last but not least for forwards, guys, is Andreas Johnson, New Jersey Devils, 2% owned, and he's playing on that top line and also on that top power play. So as long as he stays in those 2 places, he's actually a pretty decent add to your team in deep leagues. So jumping into some defensemen, guys, first is Devin Taves, Colorado Avalanche, 50% owned, and in all likelihood, this is the last week that I'm going to be able to have Taves on this list because when a player gets over 50% owned, I can't put him on this list. He's looking really good on that Colorado second power play, and I would add him to your team. Next is Rasmus Andersson, Calgary Flames, 46% owned, and he's probably the same. I probably won't be able to have him on this list after this week. He's been quarterbacking that top Calgary power play ever since the beginning of the season, and he's honestly played really well. He'll probably be over 50% owned as of next week. So if you still haven't added him to your team, do it before it is too late. Next is Josh Morrissey, Winnipeg Jets, 33% owned, and he's still quarterbacking that top Winnipeg Jets power play, which is looking really deadly. So he makes a pretty good add to your team if he's still available on that waiver wire. Next is PK Subban, New Jersey Devils, 23% owned, and he's now back on that top New Jersey power play. So if he's available, he actually makes for a pretty good add because he shoots a lot too. Next is Jared Spurgeon, Minnesota Wild, 20% owned, and he's making a little bit of a comeback because Minnesota is really hot right now, and he's playing on that top power play with Rask, with Zuccarello, and with Kaprizov. Next is Nick Leddy, New York Islanders, 18% owned, and he's super hot right now playing on that second power play with Pajot. And as long as Pajot stays hot, as long as that second power play unit stays hot, Leddy's a pretty good add to your team, quite honestly. Next is Eric Gustafsson, Philadelphia Flyers, 11% owned, and I'm not super high on him, but he is getting second power play time with guys like Giroux. So honestly, not too bad. He's going to get a good amount of power play time, which means a good amount of opportunities. Next is Jonas Brodin, Minnesota Wild, 10% owned, and he has great defensive stats like blocks, but he's also getting some opportunities on Minnesota's second power play, which is actually getting a lot of power play time with guys like Fiala on it. So honestly, Brodin is a pretty good ad, especially if shot blocks are in your league. Next is Brett Pesce, Carolina Hurricanes, 7% owned. He's another guy that has some pretty decent defensive stats, but he's also getting some power play time on Carolina's second unit. So if you need a guy really badly on defense that could put up some points, he'll put up some decent shot blocks and shots on goal, Brett Pesce is actually a pretty decent fill-in. Last but not least, guys, Adam Boquist, Chicago Blackhawks, 6% owned, and he is manning Chicago's top power play, so I don't understand why he's not more owned. I know his numbers haven't been super crazy, but he is getting every opportunity on that top power play. Jumping into some goalies now, first on the list is Jake Allen, Montreal Canadiens, 45% owned, and he's drastically outplayed Carey Price so far, and he's seeing about half the starts. If Carey Price keeps sucking, he could see even more. So I would pick up Jake Allen before it's too late. Next are the goaltending duo of Talbot and Kakkonen, Minnesota Wild, 47% owned and 44% owned. It looks like at this point they're going to be splitting the starts 50-50 because both of them are playing really, really well. Now, if I had to choose one between the two of them, I would choose Talbot just because they probably want to keep him as their starting goalie. But honestly, they're both really good options if you need a goalie. Next are Jonathan Quick and Cal Peterson, Los Angeles Kings, 38% owned and 28% owned. And honestly, both these guys are also playing super well. And the Kings are really exceeding expectations right now. Honestly, I'm surprised by how well they're playing. But as long as the Kings stay good and they're actually winning games, well, Quick and Peterson are actually half-decent ads. Next is Pekka Rinne, Nashville Predators, 34% owned. And UC Saros is really sucking, and Pekka Rinne has drastically outplayed him this season. The Predators haven't been the best team in the world this season, but honestly, Pekka Rinne is better than a lot of other goalies out there. Next is Matt Murray, Ottawa Senators, 28% owned, and he's won 3 games in a row. So Ottawa's actually a little bit hot right now. They're having a little bit of a hot streak, so as long as that continues, Matt Murray is actually a half-decent ad if you're really desperate for a goalie. Next are David Riddick and Jack Campbell, and these guys are good ads as long as their starting goalies are out. Markstrom and Frederik Andersen are both out with minor injuries. So as long as these guys stay out, if you guys have those starting goalies on your team, they're very good replacements, Riddick and Campbell. Next is Jonathan Bernier, Detroit Red Wings, 7% owned, and he's currently the starter in Detroit. He's playing much better than Rice, so if you're really desperate and you need a Detroit goalie, hopefully you don't, well, Bernier's actually not doing too bad. Next is Carter Hutton, Buffalo Sabres, 6% owned, and Ullmark is going to be out for the next month. So if you're an Ullmark owner, you absolutely have to add Carter Hutton. Carter Hutton isn't the best goalie in the world, but he should get almost every single start, which means that he'll get you some wins. Next is Alex Nedeljkovic, Carolina Hurricanes, 4% owned, and he's seeing every second start for the Carolina Hurricanes, which is not too bad. I know they've played a lot of games against Tampa Bay, but their schedule will get a little bit easier, and Nedeljkovic could start getting you some wins. All right, guys, you've reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. I really appreciate it. Please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a comment, ask me a fantasy hockey related question. I'll be happy to answer you. Until next time, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.